girl sees blind Millionaire collapsed on the ground as a cougar approaches. Then she does this. Comment telling me what you thought of this story, giving it a score from 0 to 10, and comment what city you're watching me from. I really want to know if you liked my story, and I want to get to know you better. So please subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The midday sun punished the dusty streets of Cedar Creek as Lily felt her stomach rumble once more. The 4-year-old girl adjusted her faded little dress and looked at the solitary coin in her sweaty little hand. It was all she had managed to get that morning, panhandling at the doors of the downtown shops. Her bare little feet carried her instinctively toward the nature preserve on the outskirts of town, where she sometimes found fallen fruit from the trees or clean water in the creek. Eleanor, her grandmother, had told her not to wander off too far, but hunger spoke louder than fear. The dense vegetation of the preserve offered a welcome relief from the scorching heat. Lily walked slowly, her big, clever eyes scanning the ground for anything edible. That's when she heard a low groan coming from behind a leafy tree. She approached carefully and found a man collapsed on the ground, wearing expensive clothes that contrasted sharply with the wild environment. Benjamin Caldwell, 52 years old, lay unconscious on the dry leaves, his pale face covered in a cold sweat. The girl didn't know that this man owned one of the largest mining companies in the region. To her, he was just someone who needed help. Lily crouched beside him, lightly touching his arm. Mister, wake up," she whispered in her sweet voice. Benjamin didn't respond. His eyes remained closed and his breathing was shallow. Lily noticed something strange about his eyes, a cloudiness she couldn't comprehend, but that made her feel an inexplicable sadness. That's when she heard it, the sound of leaves being crushed by heavy paws. Lily turned slowly, and her little heart almost stopped. A few yards away, a cougar was watching the scene with hungry, yellow eyes. The feline moved with the deadly grace of a predator, approaching the unconscious man with calculated steps. Lily knew she should run, that she should save her own life. But something inside her refused to abandon this helpless stranger. Without a second thought, the girl started screaming with all the force of her small lungs. "Go away! Get out of here!" She picked up rocks from the ground and threw them in the animal's direction, making as much noise as possible. The cougar hesitated, surprised by the reaction of this tiny but brave creature. Lily continued to scream and bang rocks on the ground, creating a clamor that echoed through the silent forest. The noise finally woke Benjamin. He opened his eyes, disoriented, trying to understand where he was and what was happening. His vision, lost 3 years ago in an industrial accident that had completely changed his life, did not allow him to see the approaching danger. "What's happening?" he murmured, trying to get up with difficulty. "There's a cougar here. It wants to hurt you," Lily shouted without stopping her noise-making. The cougar, intimidated by the confusion and the screams, finally decided to retreat. It disappeared among the trees with the same silence it had appeared with, leaving only the echo of Lily's and Benjamin's racing hearts. "It's gone," the girl said, out of breath, dropping the rocks from her small hands. Benjamin was visibly shaken. His hands trembled as he tried to process what had happened. The darkness that had surrounded him since the accident made him feel more vulnerable than ever. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. "I'm Lily, and you need to get out of here. This place is dangerous," she replied, with a maturity surprising for her age. The girl took Benjamin's large, calloused hand and began to guide him carefully through the vegetation. Her steps were sure. She knew these paths by heart. She had grown up playing in this area when Eleanor still had the strength to take her for walks. "Why did you help me?" Benjamin asked as they walked slowly towards the road. "Grandma Eleanor always taught me that you can't put a price on helping," Lily replied simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. The name hit Benjamin like a lightning bolt. Eleanor. It couldn't be a coincidence. How many Eleanors were there in this small town? His childhood memories flooded back like a torrent. A young nanny with kind eyes who took care of him when his parents traveled for work. Eleanor? What's your grandmother's last name? He asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Vance. Eleanor Vance, Lily replied, unaware of the impact those words had on the man she was guiding. Benjamin's legs almost gave out. It was her. After 40 years, fate had brought them together in the most unlikely way possible. The girl who had saved him was the granddaughter of the woman who had been cruelly fired by his own family decades ago. When they finally reached the main road, Benjamin asked Lily to call for help. A passing driver recognized the businessman and immediately offered a ride to the nearest hospital. Wait, Benjamin said before getting into the car. He took out his wallet and offered a few bills to Lily. Take this, it's a thank you. The girl shook her head firmly. I can't accept it. Grandma always says helping is priceless. You don't owe me anything. Benjamin was speechless. In his world of business, where every favor had a price and every gesture hid an intention, that purity completely disarmed him. How can I find you? And your grandmother? He asked before the car drove off. We live in the Blue House on Blossom Avenue. Grandma works cleaning Mercy General Hospital, Lily replied, waving as the vehicle pulled away. Benjamin leaned back in the seat, his mind buzzing with memories of the past and possibilities for the future. Eleanor Vance. The young woman who had been his nanny, who had been treated so unfairly by his family, and now her granddaughter had saved his life. Fate, he thought, had mysterious ways of settling old scores. 3 days had passed since the encounter in the preserve, but Benjamin couldn't get Lily and Eleanor out of his mind. Sitting in his silent mansion on the outskirts of Cedar Creek, he drummed his fingers on the mahogany table as he processed the memories that had resurfaced like ghosts from the past. Eleanor Vance had been more than a nanny to him. When his parents traveled constantly on business, leaving him alone in that big, cold house, she was the one who comforted him during thunderstorms, who made up stories to help him sleep, who defended him when the other servants treated him with indifference. He vaguely remembered the day she disappeared. He was only 12 when his parents coldly announced that Eleanor would no longer work for the family. There were no explanations, only orders to never mention her name again. Now, at 52, Benjamin finally understood the cruelty of that moment. A young woman of only 16, pregnant and helpless, thrown onto the street by the family that should have offered her protection. Mr. Caldwell, the voice of Martha, his current housekeeper, brought him back to the present. You haven't touched your lunch again. I'm not hungry, he murmured, running his hands over his tired face. Martha sighed. Since his wife Rebecca had left, taking the children after the accident that left him blind, Benjamin had become a shadow of the determined man he once was. The house, once full of life and children's voices, now echoed only with the heavy silence of loneliness. Martha, he said suddenly, I need you to take me somewhere this afternoon. Of course, sir. Where to? To Blossom Avenue. I need to find someone. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, in the small blue house Lily had mentioned, Eleanor Vance was fighting another episode of intense pain in her kidneys. The 67-year-old woman held on to the narrow hallway wall, trying to get to the bathroom, before the nausea completely overwhelmed her. Grandma, are you okay? Asked Lily, running to help her. I'm fine, my little flower. It's just a little discomfort, Eleanor lied, forcing a smile so as not to worry her granddaughter. But Lily noticed everything. In recent months, she had noticed how her grandmother was getting paler, how she ate less and less, how she sometimes groaned softly during the night, thinking she couldn't hear. The girl didn't fully understand what was happening, but she knew something was very wrong. Eleanor made it to the bathroom in time, but when she came back, she found Lily sitting on the living room floor, counting and recounting the few coins they had managed to get that day. $15, the girl announced. I think that's enough to buy rice and beans. Eleanor's heart ached. A 4-year-old child shouldn't know how to calculate the cost of food, shouldn't have to worry if there would be dinner that night. But since Sarah, her daughter, had disappeared 2 years ago, Lily had become her little partner in the daily struggle for survival. Grandma, Lily said suddenly, I saved a man in the preserve today. Eleanor, who was trying to organize medical bills on the table, stopped what she was doing. What do you mean, my child? Lily told the whole story of her encounter with Benjamin, describing in childish detail how she had scared away the cougar and guided the man to the road. Eleanor listened in silence, her eyes filling with tears of pride for her granddaughter's courage. He wanted to give me money, but I didn't take it. You always say helping is priceless, Lily concluded. You did the right thing, my dear, the very right thing, Eleanor said, hugging her tightly. But something in Lily's description of the man bothered her, a well-dressed, middle-aged businessman who seemed unable to see properly. It couldn't be too much of a coincidence for a town like Cedar Creek. The sound of a car stopping in front of the house interrupted her thoughts. Eleanor peeked through the window and her blood ran cold. A black, luxurious car, the kind only very rich people owned, was parked right in front of her gate. Lily, go to your room and stay there until I call you, she said, her voice suddenly tense. Why, Grandma? Just go, please. The girl obeyed, but hid behind the bedroom door, curious to know who was visiting her grandmother. Eleanor smoothed her simple dress and opened the front door with her heart pounding erratically. Benjamin was standing at the gate, accompanied by Martha. Even after 40 years, Eleanor recognized him immediately. The aristocratic features, the straight posture, the determined chin, all the same as the boy she had cared for decades ago. Eleanor? He asked, his voice uncertain. Mr. Caldwell, she replied, her voice barely a whisper. The silence that followed was heavy with 4 decades of hurt, regret, and unprocessed memories. Benjamin seemed to be searching for the right words, while Eleanor fought the urge to slam the door in his face. May I come in? I need to talk to you, he asked. Eleanor hesitated. Part of her wanted to send him away, wanted to scream about the injustice she had suffered, about the years of poverty and humiliation that followed her dismissal. But another part, the one that held a genuine affection for the boy he had been, won out. Come in, she said, stepping away from the door. Martha helped Benjamin into the small, modest house. The contrast with his mansion was stark, old. But clean furniture, peeling but lovingly decorated walls, the smell of dignified poverty he had forgotten existed. Lily told me you are her grandmother, he began, sitting carefully in the chair she offered. She's my granddaughter, Sarah's daughter, Eleanor confirmed, keeping her distance. Sarah, your daughter, the child you were expecting when your family threw me out on the street like an animal, she completed, the bitterness escaping despite her efforts to control it. Benjamin lowered his head. Eleanor, I didn't know. I was just a child. My parents never explained why you had left. Of course they didn't. Explain. To them, I was just another piece of furniture in the house. When it became inconvenient, they discarded me. Where is Sarah now? He asked, trying to change the subject. I don't know, Eleanor replied, her voice breaking slightly. She disappeared 2 years ago, left Lily with me and vanished. Sometimes I think she's... She couldn't finish the sentence. The fear that her daughter might have passed from this world haunted her every night. And how do you survive? I work cleaning Mercy General Hospital. What I earn is barely enough for rent and food. Lily, she begs on, the street to help. The revelation hit Benjamin like a punch to the gut. This brave little girl who had saved his life was begging to survive. Eleanor, I want to help. We don't need your charity, she replied, her wounded pride speaking louder. It's not charity, it's justice. My family owes you this and much more. It was at that moment that Lily, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, appeared at the bedroom door. Her eyes widened when she saw Benjamin sitting in the living room. It's the man from the preserve, she exclaimed, running to him. Hi, Lily, Benjamin said, a genuine smile appearing on his face for the first time in years. I came to thank you properly for saving my life. I already told you. You don't need to give me anything, the girl replied, but her eyes shone with joy at seeing him again. Eleanor watched the interaction with a heavy heart. She saw in the way Benjamin spoke to Lily the kindness she remembered from the boy he had been. But she also saw the cruel reality of their lives, a sick grandmother, a child begging for alms, an uncertain future. Eleanor, Benjamin said, turning to her again, let me at least pay for Lily's education, and if you need medical assistance. How do you know I need medical assistance? She asked, suspicious. Benjamin hesitated. He didn't want to admit he had had their situation investigated over the past 3 days. Just a guess, at 67, after a life of hard work, Eleanor interrupted him with a bitter laugh. You were always perceptive, even as a child. Yes, I'm sick. My kidneys are failing. And no, I can't afford treatment. The silence that followed was broken only by Eleanor's ragged breathing as she tried to control another wave of pain. How much does the treatment cost? Benjamin asked. More than I would earn in 10 lifetimes. Then it's settled. I'll pay. I already said I don't want your charity. And I already said it's not charity, he replied, raising his voice for the first time. It's the least I can do after what my family did to you. Lily, frightened by the tone of the argument, approached her grandmother and held her hand. That simple gesture made Eleanor realize it wasn't just about her wounded pride. It was about this child's future. If I accept, she said slowly, it will be a loan. I'll pay back every cent when I can. As you wish, Benjamin agreed, knowing she would never be able to pay it back, but respecting her need to maintain her dignity. When Benjamin finally stood up to leave, Lily ran to him and held his hand. Mr. Caldwell, she said in her sweet voice, thank you for wanting to help Grandma. He knelt to her level, touching her small face with infinite gentleness. Thank you, Lily, for teaching me that there are still good people in this world. After he left, Eleanor sat heavily in her chair, the weight of decades of wounded pride finally giving way to the reality of her desperate situation. Lily approached her, sensing that something important had changed that afternoon. Grandma, are you going to get better now? I hope so, my little flower, Eleanor replied, hugging her granddaughter tightly. I hope so. But deep in her heart, a question tormented her. Why had Benjamin appeared in their lives right now when she needed it most? Was it really just a coincidence, or was fate plotting something much bigger than she could imagine? 2 weeks had passed since Benjamin had promised to pay for Eleanor's medical treatment. The first appointment was scheduled for that morning, and Lily woke up earlier than usual, eager to accompany her grandmother to the hospital. Grandma, are you scared? The girl asked as she helped Eleanor choose her best dress. A little, the elderly woman admitted, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to button the navy blue dress. It's been a long time since I've been to the doctor as a patient. For years, Eleanor had worked cleaning those same hospital corridors, watching from a distance as patients arrived with hope and left with diagnoses that changed their lives forever. Now, for the first time, she would be one of them. The phone rang, interrupting her nervous thoughts. It was Martha, Benjamin's housekeeper, informing them that the car was already on its way to pick them up. "That wasn't necessary," Eleanor protested. "We could have taken the bus." "Mr. Caldwell insisted," Martha replied. "He said he wanted to make sure you arrived comfortably and on time." Minutes later, the same black car as before pulled up in front of the blue house. To Eleanor's surprise, Benjamin was in the back seat, wearing a dark suit and sunglasses that partially hid his lifeless eyes. "Good morning," he greeted, as Martha helped Eleanor and Lily into the vehicle. "I hope you don't mind my presence. I wanted to personally accompany you to the appointment." "You didn't need to bother, Mr. Caldwell," Eleanor said, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "Of course it was necessary," he replied. "Lily saved my life. It's the least I can do." During the drive to the hospital, Lily watched in fascination as the bustling city streets passed by the car window. She rarely left the humble neighborhood where they lived, and seeing the tall buildings and elegant shops downtown was like discovering a new world. "Mr. Caldwell," she said suddenly, "why do you wear sunglasses inside the car?" "Lily!" Eleanor chided, embarrassed by her granddaughter's direct question. "It's all right," Benjamin said, removing the glasses. "It's because my eyes don't work anymore, Lily. I can't see." The girl studied his face with childish curiosity. "Doesn't it hurt?" "Not physically, but sometimes, yes, it hurts on the inside." "What do you mean?" Benjamin hesitated. How could he explain to a 4-year-old the loneliness that blindness had brought? How to describe the abandonment of a wife who couldn't handle his disability? "Sometimes people treat those who can't see differently," he said carefully, "as if we were less capable." "But you are capable," Lily stated with conviction. "You managed to come here on your own. You can talk normally." The simplicity of the observation touched Benjamin deeply. For 3 years since the accident, he had isolated himself from the world, convinced that his disability made him a burden to everyone around him. They arrived at St. Luke's Hospital, a private institution that contrasted sharply with the humble Mercy General where Eleanor worked. The lobby was spacious and elegant, with marble floors and modern furniture that intimidated both Eleanor and Lily. Dr. Richard Evans, a renowned nephrologist in the city, received Eleanor in his private office. Benjamin waited in the waiting room with Lily, who was quietly playing with a coloring book she had found at the children's table. "Mr. Caldwell," she said after a few minutes, "is my grandma really going to get better?" The question echoed the fears he himself carried. From the symptoms he had discreetly observed, Eleanor's situation seemed more serious than she admitted. "The doctors will do everything they can," he replied, avoiding a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. In the office, Dr. Evans examined the results of the tests Eleanor had taken the previous week. His serious expression did not go unnoticed by the elderly woman, who wrung her hands nervously in her lap. "Mrs. Vance," he began, "I'm going to be direct with you. The situation with your kidneys is quite delicate." "How long?" she asked, cutting straight to what worried her most. "With proper treatment, we can maintain your quality of life for a long time, but it will require dialysis 3 times a week." The reality of the situation hit Eleanor like a hammer. 3 times a week at the hospital meant leaving Lily alone, meant not being able to work, meant depending completely on Benjamin's generosity. "And if I don't do the treatment?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Dr. Evans looked at her with compassion. "Mrs. Vance, you have a young granddaughter who depends on you. You can't afford to give up." Meanwhile, in the waiting room, an unexpected scene was unfolding. Lily had stopped coloring and was watching a man who was talking nervously on the phone near the window. "No, Charlie, I'm not signing anything while I'm at the hospital," Benjamin was saying into the phone, his voice tense. "We can discuss this when I get back to the office." Lily didn't understand what those words meant, but she could tell from the tension in Benjamin's voice that something was bothering him greatly. With the natural curiosity of children, she approached him. "Are you mad at someone?" she asked when he hung up the phone. Benjamin took a deep breath, trying to control his irritation. "It's just work, Lily. Sometimes people try to take advantage when they think you're not paying attention." "What do you mean?" "Well, imagine you have very special toys and someone tries to take them when you're not looking." Lily frowned. "That's wrong. Grandma always says we can't take things from other people. Your grandmother is very wise." At that moment, Eleanor came out of the office, visibly shaken. Benjamin stood up immediately, guided by the sound of her uneven footsteps. "How did it go?" he asked. "I need to start dialysis next week," she replied, sitting heavily in a nearby chair. "That's good. It means there's a treatment." 3 times a week, Benjamin. How will I take care of Lily? How will I work?" It was then that Benjamin made a decision that would change everything. "You're going to move into my house." "What?" Eleanor looked at him as if she had misheard. "My house has empty rooms. There's space for Lily to play safely. You can recover properly, and I can help take care of her when you're on dialysis." "Benjamin, that's crazy. We can't just—" "Why not?" he interrupted. "You took care of me when I was a child. Now it's my turn to return the favor." Lily, who had heard the whole conversation, tugged on her grandmother's dress. "Grandma, his house must be very big. Maybe it has a yard where I can play without being afraid of the cougar." The girl's innocent remark made Eleanor realize a painful reality. In the house where they lived, Lily was constantly in danger. The proximity to the preserve, the poverty of the neighborhood, the lack of a proper structure for a child. "Eleanor," Benjamin said softly, "I'm not offering out of pity. I'm offering because since Rebecca left with my children, my house has become a mausoleum. You two would be doing me a favor by bringing life back to that place." The raw honesty of the confession touched Eleanor. She saw in him not the spoiled boy she had known decades ago, but a man broken by loss, just as she had been broken by the circumstances of life. "And if it doesn't work out?" she asked, still hesitant. "Then you will always have a place to come back to. I will buy the house where you live now and keep it in your name as a guarantee." The generosity of the proposal was overwhelming. Eleanor looked at Lily, who was watching her with eyes full of hope, and made the most difficult decision of her life. "All right," she said, "but on conditions, which are, I remain responsible for Lily. We are not your dependents. We are your temporary guests. And when I get better, we go back to our life." Benjamin smiled for the first time in a long time. Deal. As they left the hospital, none of the 3 imagined that this decision would involve them in events that would test not only the new family dynamic they were creating, but also reveal secrets that could destroy everything Benjamin had built throughout his life. In the back seat of the car, Lily held her grandmother's hand, her eyes shining with the expectation of a new life. But Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to enter a world far more complex and dangerous than the poverty they were leaving behind. The call Benjamin had received at the hospital was just the beginning of a gathering storm, one that would endanger not only his company, but also the safety of the family he had just taken in. Benjamin Caldwell's mansion stood imposingly in the most exclusive neighborhood of Cedar Creek, surrounded by manicured gardens and a high wall that protected it from the outside world. When the car passed through the electronic gate, Lily pressed her little face against the window, marveling at the grandeur of the place that would be her new home. "It's so big," she whispered to Eleanor, who was observing the property with a mixture of awe and unease. The house was everything the small blue cottage was not: spacious, luxurious, quiet. 3 floors of modern architecture with huge windows that allowed an abundance of natural light. For Eleanor, who had spent her entire life in simple houses, this opulence was almost intimidating. Martha greeted them at the main entrance, her gentle smile helping to ease the tension of the moment. "Welcome," she said, addressing Lily in particular. "I've prepared the pink room for you, little one. Want to see?" Lily looked to her grandmother for approval before nodding shyly. Martha took her by the hand and led her up the marble staircase to the second floor, where a large, well-lit room had been prepared especially for her. This was Mr. Caldwell's daughter's room, Martha explained, watching as Lily's eyes filled with enchantment. "She was about your age when she played in here." The room had everything a child could dream of. A pink canopy bed, shelves full of children's books, carefully organized toys, and a window overlooking the back garden where a crystal-clear swimming pool reflected the sunlight. "Where is she now?" Lily asked, gently touching a teddy bear that was on the bed. "She lives far away from here with her mum," Martha replied carefully. Meanwhile, downstairs, Eleanor was being settled into a room on the ground floor near the kitchen. Benjamin had insisted on this location to facilitate her mobility during treatment. "Eleanor," he said, standing at the bedroom door, "I want you to feel at home here. This isn't charity, remember? It's a fair exchange." "An exchange?" she asked, arranging her few clothes in the spacious wardrobe. "You're going to help me be a better person. Since I lost my sight, I've become bitter, isolated. Lily has already shown me that I can still smile." The sincerity in his voice touched Eleanor, but she still kept her defenses up. 40 years of resentment couldn't be healed in 2 weeks. That first night, Lily could barely sleep from excitement. She woke up several times to make sure she wasn't dreaming of that wonderful room. When she finally fell asleep, it was to the gentle sound of the garden fountain, a melody very different from the urban noises she was used to. The next morning, Benjamin woke up earlier than usual, eager to start a new routine. For years, he had felt no expectation for the future, always just living one day at a time. "Good morning," he said as he entered the kitchen, guided by the aroma of fresh coffee and the sound of women's voices conversing softly. "Good morning, Mr. Caldwell," Eleanor replied, who was already preparing breakfast. "I hope you don't mind, but I woke up early and thought I'd help Martha." "Of course I don't mind. But you don't have to work here, Eleanor." "Yes, I do," she replied firmly. "I can't stay still. It's stronger than me." Lily appeared in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, her hair messy and her eyes shining with curiosity. "Mr. Caldwell, can I explore the garden after breakfast?" "You can, but only in the areas near the house," he replied, "and always with an adult nearby." During breakfast, a strange but comforting routine began to form. Eleanor served everyone with maternal care, Lily chattered about the dreams she'd had in the new room, and Benjamin discovered that conversing during meals was something he had forgotten was possible. That's when the phone rang, interrupting that moment of domestic peace. "Benjamin," said the tense voice of Charles Mercer from the other end of the line, "I need you to come to the office today. We have an urgent situation." "What kind of situation?" Benjamin asked, his posture immediately stiffening. "Problems with the contracts for the St. Sebastian mine. The external auditors are questioning some irregularities." Benjamin felt his blood run cold. The St. Sebastian mine was the company's most profitable project, responsible for almost 40% of its annual revenue. "What kind of irregularities?" "I'd rather not discuss it over the phone. Can you come now?" Benjamin hesitated. It was his first full morning with Eleanor and Lily in the house, and he wanted to be present to help them adapt. "I'll drive you," Eleanor offered, having noticed his hesitation. "Lily can stay with Martha. I don't want to bother you." "It's no bother. Besides, I need to get used to leaving the house. The treatment will require it of me. An hour later, Eleanor was driving Benjamin's car through the streets of Cedar Creek with a skill that surprised him. She had learned to drive years ago when she worked as a day cleaner and needed to travel between different houses. "Eleanor," he said during the drive, "what do you think of Charlie?" "Your partner? I don't know him." "You met briefly at the company's opening party about 15 years ago. You were helping with the catering." Eleanor frowned, trying to remember. "A tall man, graying hair, who treated the staff as if they were invisible. That's him. I've always been wary of people who are only kind to those who can give them something in return," she said thoughtfully. They arrived at the commercial building where Caldwell Mercer Mining operated. It was a modern 10-story building with a glass facade that reflected the morning sun. In the elevator, Benjamin seemed tense, his hands gripping his white cane tighter than usual. Charlie's office was on the top floor, a large room with a panoramic view of the city. When they entered, they found Charlie in a meeting with two men in suits whom Benjamin didn't recognize. "Benjamin, glad you could make it," Charlie said, getting up from the table. "These are the auditors from the firm hired by the government to review our mining processes." "A pleasure," Benjamin said, extending his hand in the general direction of the auditors. The older of the two men, a Mr. Ramirez, consulted his papers before speaking. "Mr. Caldwell, we've found significant discrepancies between the production reports you sent to the government and the company's bank records." "What kind of discrepancies?" "Numbers that don't add up. According to your reports, the St. Sebastian mine produced 30% less ore than the amount deposited in your accounts suggests." Benjamin felt the floor open up beneath his feet. "That's impossible. All our reports are accurate." "Perhaps the problem isn't accuracy," interjected the second auditor, "but honesty." Charlie stepped forward before Benjamin could respond. "Gentlemen, I'm sure we can resolve this misunderstanding. Benjamin, how about we talk in private?" Eleanor, who had remained silent until then, observing everyone's body language, noticed something strange in Charlie's behavior. The way he avoided eye contact with Benjamin, how his hands trembled slightly, how he seemed anxious to end the meeting quickly. "Eleanor, can you wait for me in the waiting room?" Benjamin asked. "Of course," she replied, but before leaving, she memorized the auditors' names and carefully observed the documents scattered on the table. In the waiting room, while she waited, Eleanor struck up a conversation with Charlie's secretary, a young woman named Patricia. "Have you worked here long?" Eleanor asked casually. 3 years, Patricia replied. "Ever since Mr. Mercer took on more responsibilities in the company." "Took on more responsibilities?" "Yes, after Mr. Caldwell lost his sight, Mr. Mercer started handling almost everything, including the reports to the government." The information hit Eleanor like a revelation. If Charlie was responsible for the reports, then the irregularities pointed out by the auditors were directly linked to him. Inside the meeting room, Charlie was speaking in a low voice to Benjamin. "Look, I think we should consider selling your share of the company. With your current condition, it's hard for you to keep track of all the details." "My condition?" Benjamin asked, offended. "You know that's not what I mean. But let's be practical. These auditors can create serious problems for us. If you sell your share now, you can walk away from this whole story without complications. And you? I'll be left with the problem. After all, I've been your partner for 20 years. Benjamin sensed something wrong in Charlie's tone, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what. "I need to think about it." "Of course, but don't take too long. The auditors want an answer by the end of the week." When Benjamin left the meeting, he found Eleanor waiting with a worried expression on her face. On the way back home, she decided to share her suspicions. "Benjamin, can I ask a question?" "Of course." "Who in the company has access to the reports that are sent to the government. Only me and Charlie. Why? And after you lost your sight, who took over that responsibility? Benjamin was silent for a long moment, processing the implication of the question. Eleanor, what are you suggesting? That maybe you should investigate your partner before making any decision about selling your share of the company. That afternoon, when they got home, they found Lily playing in the garden with a doll she had found in the room. The sight of the happy, safe girl contrasted sharply with the storm of suspicions that was beginning to form in Benjamin's mind. But there was something that neither he nor Eleanor knew. Lily had observed everything from the garden when they arrived home, and with the natural curiosity of children, she had noticed a strange man standing across the street, watching their house through binoculars. A man she was sure she had seen before, secretly talking to Charlie during one of her walks through town. Lily couldn't forget the man with the binoculars. During dinner, she played distractedly with the food on her plate, her small eyes scanning the living room windows as if expecting to see him again. Eleanor noticed her granddaughter's restlessness, but attributed it to the nervousness of being in a new house. Grandma, Lily whispered when Benjamin left to take a call, there's a man looking at our house. What do you mean, my little flower? I saw him from the garden. He was on the street with something on his eyes, looking over here. Eleanor felt a chill run down her spine. After the conversation at the office and the suspicions she had developed about Charlie, any sign of surveillance put her on high alert. Where did you see this man? Across the street, near the big tree. He was hiding, but I could see him. Before Eleanor could answer, Benjamin returned to the room, visibly disturbed. The call had been from his personal lawyer, Mr. Frank Peterson, with news that further complicated the company's situation. Eleanor, I need to talk to you, he said, his voice heavy with concern. They went to the office while Lily stayed in the living room, watching cartoons on the enormous television that took up almost an entire wall. But the girl kept one eye on the window, looking for the mysterious man. The situation is worse than I imagined, Benjamin began, sitting heavily in the leather armchair. Mr. Peterson informed me that the auditors have found evidence of over-invoicing on several projects the company has carried out in the last 2 years. Over-invoicing? Contracts where we charged much more than the service was actually worth. It's a way to defraud both the government and private clients. Eleanor sat in the chair opposite him, trying to process the gravity of the situation. But did you know about these irregularities? That's the problem. I didn't know anything. Since I lost my sight, Charlie has taken responsibility. For all contracts and bids, I just signed the documents he presented to me. And now I've found out that a search and seizure warrant may be in the works. If they find enough evidence, I could be arrested. The word arrested echoed in the silence of the office like a gunshot. Eleanor immediately thought of Lily, of the security the girl had found in that house, of the stability that could be destroyed in an instant. Benjamin, do you trust Charlie? I trusted him for 20 years. He was my best friend, the one who supported me when I lost my sight, when Rebecca abandoned me. But now you have doubts. I do, and Mr. Peterson does too. He thinks I should hire a private investigator to look into the company's transactions. At that moment, Lily appeared at the office door, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Grandma, the man is there again. Eleanor got up quickly and went to the window, followed by Benjamin. Across the street, partially hidden behind a lamppost, a middle-aged man was watching the house with a small device in his hands. Is someone there? Asked Benjamin, who obviously couldn't see. Yes, a suspicious-looking man watching the house. This confirms my suspicions, Benjamin murmured. Charlie must be having me watched. Why? Because if he's really involved in the fraud, he needs to know if I'm investigating, or if I'm going to passively accept the offer to sell my share of the company. Eleanor studied the man for a few more seconds before noticing something familiar in his posture. "Lily, you said you had seen this man before?" "Yes. He was talking to Mr. Mercer near the market when I was begging. They seemed to be fighting about something." The revelation made Benjamin's blood run cold. If Charlie was using private surveillance against him, it meant the situation was far more serious than he had imagined. "Eleanor, could you call Mr. Peterson? We need to schedule an urgent meeting." While Eleanor made the call, Benjamin knelt to Lily's level, his hands gently touching the girl's face. "Lily, you were very smart to tell us about this man, but now I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If you see any strange people hanging around the house, or if someone tries to talk to you when you're playing in the garden, you run inside. And tell me or your grandmother immediately." "Are we in danger?" the girl asked with the frankness typical of children. Benjamin hesitated. How could he explain to a 4-year-old that the adult world was collapsing around them? "We're just being careful," he replied. "Sometimes people do bad things when they want money very badly." The next morning, Mr. Peterson arrived early at the mansion, accompanied by an elegant woman of about 40, who introduced herself as Ms. Marina Lopez, a private investigator specializing in corporate fraud. "Mr. Caldwell," said Mr. Peterson after the introductions, "Ms. Lopez is going to help us find out exactly what's happening in your company. What do you need from me?" "Access to all company documents from the last 5 years," Ms. Lopez replied. "Contracts, financial reports, correspondence, everything. Most of it is in my office at the company, but with Charlie controlling everything, leave that to me. I have legal authorization to access any document related to the auditor's investigations." While the lawyers discussed strategies, Eleanor was preparing lunch in the kitchen, trying to maintain a normal routine for Lily. The girl was quieter than usual, clearly sensing the tension that hung over the house. "Grandma, why is everyone talking so quietly?" she asked, climbing onto a stool to help peel potatoes. "Sometimes adults have to solve complicated problems," Eleanor explained. "But don't worry, everything is fine." "Is Mr. Caldwell going to have to go away like my mom did?" The question hit Eleanor like a dagger. The memory of Sarah's abandonment still haunted Lily, creating a constant fear that the important people in her life would disappear without explanation. "No, my little flower. Mr. Caldwell is not going away, and neither are we." But even as she spoke these comforting words, Eleanor couldn't ignore the real possibility that everything could fall apart. If Benjamin were really implicated in the fraud, he would not only lose the company, but would likely be arrested. And then, what would happen to her and Lily? In the afternoon, while Ms. Lopez was at the company office collecting documents, Benjamin received an unexpected call. It was Charlie, and his voice sounded strangely urgent. "Benjamin, where are you?" "At home." "Why?" "I need to talk to you immediately. It's about the offer to sell your share. An opportunity has come up that we can't miss." "What kind of opportunity?" "An investor interested in buying your stake for a value well above the market price. But he needs an answer today." Benjamin felt all his suspicions confirmed. The artificial urgency, the pressure for a quick decision, the offer that was too generous to be true. "Charlie, I'm going to be straight with you. I'm suspicious of this whole situation." The silence on the other end of the line lasted a few seconds too long. Suspicious of what? Of the irregularities found by the auditors, of the way you're trying to pressure me to sell my share, of everything. "Benjamin, you're being paranoid. Your condition is affecting your judgment." "My condition? You know I can't trust your decisions anymore since you lost your sight. Maybe it's better for you to step away from the company." The cruelty of those words left Benjamin speechless. Charlie had used his disability as a weapon, turning his greatest vulnerability into a reason for humiliation. "Charlie," he said, his voice now as cold as ice, "our partnership ends here." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm going to fight for my company, and if you're behind this fraud, I will destroy you." When he hung up the phone, Benjamin felt a determination he hadn't experienced since before the accident. Eleanor, who had overheard part of the conversation, approached him. "Did he threaten you?" "Worse than that. He used my blindness against me." That night, while Lily slept peacefully in her pink room, Eleanor and Benjamin stayed up late, planning their next steps. They knew they were about to enter a war that could cost them everything they had built. But what neither of them imagined was that Lily, seemingly asleep, had heard much more than they should have allowed. And in her childish mind, a plan was forming to help the man who had become her protector, using the only weapon a 4-year-old possessed, the ability to be underestimated by adults. The next morning, the war would officially begin, and Lily Vance, without anyone knowing, would be the key piece that would decide everyone's fate. Eleanor's first dialysis session was scheduled for that Tuesday, and the tension in the house was palpable. Benjamin woke before dawn, worried not only about the health of the woman who had become his family, but also about the corporate war that was intensifying with each passing hour. "You don't have to, and come with me," Eleanor said as she got ready to leave. "I know you have important things to deal with today." "Nothing is more important than this," he replied firmly. "Lily, you stay with Martha. We'll be back right after lunch." The girl, who was having breakfast, nodded distractedly. Her thoughts were occupied with the plan she had devised during the night. If the adults were worried about papers and meetings, she would do what she did best: watch and listen. At the hospital, while Eleanor was being connected to the dialysis machine, Benjamin was waiting in the waiting room when his cell phone rang. It was Ms. Lopez with the first findings of her investigation. "Mr. Caldwell, you need to come to the office urgently. I've found something that will change everything." "What did you find?" "I'd rather show you in person, but I can tell you that Charles Mercer is not acting alone." Benjamin's blood ran cold. The possibility of a larger conspiracy than he had imagined was terrifying. "I'll be there in 2 hours." Meanwhile, at the mansion, Lily was putting her plan into action. She asked Martha to take her to the garden to play, but she actually wanted to see if the man with the binoculars would appear again. And it wasn't long before her patience was rewarded. There he was, now positioned even more discreetly, wearing a hat that partially hid his face. Lily pretended to play with her dolls while she watched him carefully. After a few minutes, she saw something that made her little heart race. The man was talking on the phone, and he was gesturing toward the house. The girl ran inside and grabbed the kitchen phone, dialing the number for Benjamin that she had memorized in recent days. "Hello, Mr. Caldwell? Lily, what happened? Is your grandmother okay?" "Grandma is fine, but the man with the binoculars is back, and he's talking on the phone and pointing at our house." Benjamin closed his eyes, trying to control the anger that was growing in his chest. "Lily, can you see the license plate number of his car?" "He doesn't have a car. He came on foot, but there's a logo on his shirt. It looks like a shield." "A shield?" "Yes, like the ones guards wear in movies." The description made Benjamin suspect it was a private security guard or detective. "Lily, listen carefully. Go inside the house and ask Martha to lock all the doors and windows. Don't go out into the garden until I get back." "Okay, but Mr. Caldwell?" "Yes. Can I help catch the bad man?" The question, asked with the typical innocence of a child, deeply touched Benjamin. "You're already helping a lot, Lily. Just stay safe." At the Caldwell Mercer mining office, Ms. Lopez had turned a meeting room into a veritable investigation center. Documents were spread across the table, charts were taped to the walls, and her laptop displayed complex spreadsheets that revealed a frightening pattern of fraud. "Mr. Caldwell," she said when Benjamin arrived, "what I've discovered goes beyond your worst suspicions." "Explain." "Charlie isn't just embezzling money from the company. He has set up a complex network of shell companies that simulate providing services to the mining operation, but are actually bank accounts controlled by him and at least 3 other people." Benjamin sat down heavily. "Who are these people?" "An accountant named Robert Silva, a lawyer named Mark Pereira, and," she paused dramatically, "a rival businessman of yours, Trevor Ramirez, owner of North Valley Mining." Trevor's name hit Benjamin like a punch. They had been direct competitors for years, vying for the same bids and mining contracts in the region. "Trevor is involved in this?" "Not just involved. According to the documents I found, he's the one financing the whole operation. The goal is to force your company into bankruptcy so he can buy the mining rights for a fraction of their real value." "How long has this been going on?" "From the bank records, at least 3 years. Coincidentally, it started a few months after your accident. The revelation was devastating. Charlie had taken advantage of his vulnerability after losing his sight to implement an elaborate plan to destroy his company." "There's more," Ms. Lopez continued. "I found records of payments to a private security firm. That's probably the source of the man watching your house." "Do they know I'm investigating?" "They do. And there are indications they're planning to speed things up. I found emails between Charlie and Trevor talking about resolving the situation by the end of this week." Benjamin stood up abruptly. "Are Eleanor and Lily in danger?" "It's possible. When a lot of money is at stake, desperate people can take extreme measures." At that moment, Benjamin's cell phone rang. It was Martha, and her voice was frantic. "Mr. Caldwell, you need to come home now." "What happened?" "Lily is missing." Benjamin's world collapsed. "What do you mean, missing?" "She was playing in her room. I went to make lunch, and when I came back to call her, she was gone. I've looked all over the house, in the garden. She's just vanished." "Did you check the nearby streets?" "I did. There's no sign of her anywhere." Benjamin hung up the phone with trembling hands. "Lily's gone," he told Ms. Lopez. "We're going to your house." "Now," she replied, already gathering her documents, "and I'm going to call my contacts at the police department." The drive to the mansion was torture. Benjamin imagined the worst-case scenarios. Lily kidnapped by Charlie or Trevor, the girl lost in the city trying to get back to the little blue house where they used to live. But when they arrived at the mansion, they found a situation no one expected. Lily was sitting calmly in the living room, playing with her dolls, as if nothing had happened. "Lily," Martha cried when she saw her, "where were you?" "Playing," the girl replied innocently. "But I looked for you all over the house." "I was in a secret place." Benjamin knelt beside her, his heart still pounding erratically. "Lily, you can't just disappear like that. We were so worried." "I'm sorry, Mr. Caldwell, but I found out something important." "What did you find out?" "I found where the man with the binoculars hides." Everyone in the room fell completely silent. "What do you mean, my little flower?" asked Eleanor, who had just arrived from the hospital. "There's an empty house across the street with a broken window. The man with the binoculars stays in there watching our house, and he has lots of papers with our pictures." Miss Lopez approached Lily. "Did you manage to see these papers?" "I did. He went out to buy food and left everything on the table. There's a picture of Mr. Caldwell, of Grandma, and even of me." "My God," Eleanor whispered. "How long have they been watching us?" "Lily," Benjamin said, trying to stay calm, "you can't leave the house alone anymore. It's too dangerous." "I know, but I need to tell you one more thing." "What?" "I heard the man talking on the phone. He said he was going to solve the child problem tonight. The silence that followed was cutting. Eleanor instinctively picked Lily up, as if she could protect her with just a hug. "I'm calling the police now," Ms. Lopez said, already dialing her cell phone. "No," Benjamin said. "First, we're getting out of here. If they're planning something for tonight, we can't stay in this house." "Where will we go?" asked Eleanor. "I have a country house 2 hours from here. No one knows the location." As they packed quickly, Lily approached Benjamin with an expression too serious for a 4-year-old. "Mr. Caldwell, when we come back, will you be able to defeat the bad men?" "I'll try, Lily. I'll help. I know where they hide, and I hear everything they say." Benjamin touched the girl's face with infinite affection. "You've already helped more than any adult could. Now let me take care of protecting our family." But as they loaded the luggage into the car, none of them noticed that across the street, the man with the binoculars was photographing their every move, carefully documenting the escape he had anticipated. The war was just beginning, and Lily Vance, unknowingly, had become the most valuable piece in a dangerous game that would decide the future of them all. The country house would be safe for now, but Benjamin knew that sooner or later they would have to return and face Charlie, Trevor, and the entire conspiracy that threatened to destroy everything he had fought for 20 years. And when that moment came, the courage of a 4-year-old girl would be tested in ways that neither she nor her grandmother could imagine. Benjamin's country house was hidden among the mountains of North Carolina, surrounded by a coffee plantation that had belonged to his family for generations. It was a refuge he had bought years ago, but rarely visited since the accident. Now, driving along the winding roads with Eleanor at the wheel, he felt that this place could be their salvation. "Are you okay, Grandma?" Lily asked from the back seat, noticing how Eleanor's hands trembled slightly on the steering wheel. "I'm fine, my little flower. Just a little tired from the dialysis," Eleanor lied, omitting that the tension of the last few days was dangerously affecting her blood pressure. The country house was modest compared to the mansion in Cedar Creek, but it had a rustic charm that immediately calmed Lily. There was a wide porch with rocking chairs, a simple but well-kept garden, and above all, the silence of nature that contrasted sharply with the hustle and bustle of the city. "Can I explore?" Lily asked as soon as they got out of the car. "Only near the house," Benjamin replied, "and always where we can see you." While Lily played in the garden, marveling at the butterflies that didn't exist in the city, Eleanor and Benjamin settled on the porch to plan their next steps. "Eleanor, I need you to know that the situation could get much worse before it gets better," he said, his voice heavy with concern. "I'm prepared. I've been through difficult things in my life. But Lily is stronger than we imagine, and smarter too. Did you see how she found out where that man was hiding?" Benjamin nodded, impressed by the girl's courage. "Sometimes I think we underestimate children. They see things that we, as adults, miss." At that moment, Benjamin's cell phone rang. It was Mr. Peterson with urgent news. "Benjamin, where are you?" "In a safe place." "What happened?" "Charlie filed a lawsuit this morning, claiming you are mentally and physically incapacitated to run the company. He's asking for temporary administrative guardianship." Benjamin's blood ran cold. "Can he do that?" "He can try. He's using your blindness as the central argument, claiming you're in no condition to make important business decisions." "And what does that mean in practice?" "If he succeeds, he'll have total control of the company while the courts decide on your capacity. And with the documents Ms. Lopez discovered about the fraud, he can claim you are co-responsible and need to be removed for the good of the company." Eleanor watched as Benjamin's face contorted with pain and anger. She knew that expression. It was the same one he had as a child, whenever he felt wronged or misunderstood. "Mr. Peterson, I need you and Ms. Lopez to work together. I want a legal counteroffensive that exposes all of Charlie's fraud before he can remove me. It's going to be risky. If we make a mistake, you could lose everything. If we don't try, I'll lose everything anyway. After hanging up, Benjamin was silent for long minutes, processing the magnitude of the attack he was under. It wasn't just his company at stake. It was his dignity, his identity, everything he had fought for decades. "Benjamin," Eleanor said softly, "can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" "Of course. When you were a child, I always knew you would become a special man, but not for your wealth or business success. Why then? Because even though you were the son of strict employers, you had compassion. I remember one time your parents yelled at the cook for breaking an expensive plate. You, at only 8 years old, went to her secretly and gave her your allowance to help pay for the plate." Benjamin smiled slightly. "I remember that story. And I remember how you used to share your toys with me, even though you knew your parents didn't approve. You always had a good heart, Benjamin. And people with good hearts don't lose important battles." The conversation was interrupted by Lily, who came running from the garden with a look of discovery on her face. "Mr. Caldwell, I found something important." "What is it, my dear?" "There's an old phone in the house, one of those that are stuck to the wall, and it was ringing." Benjamin frowned. No one was supposed to know they were there. "Did you answer it?" "No, because Grandma always says not to answer calls from strangers. But I heard the person talking on the answering machine." "What did the person say?" "It was a lady's voice. She said she had important information about Charlie and that you should call her urgently." Benjamin and Eleanor looked at each other. It could be a trap, but it could also be the help they so desperately needed. "Lily, can you repeat the number the lady left?" The girl, with the impressive memory of children, recited the digits perfectly. "I'm going to call," Benjamin decided. The call was answered on the second ring by a mature and determined female voice. "Mr. Caldwell, this is Patricia, Mr. Mercer's secretary." Benjamin almost dropped the phone. "Patricia, how did you get this number?" "I found it in an old address book of yours. Look, I know this might seem strange, but I need to speak with you in person. I have information that could change everything." "What kind of information?" "I can't talk over the phone. They might be listening. But I can say that I know about the plans for tonight." "What plans?" "Charlie and Trevor Ramirez have scheduled a meeting for 8 o'clock tonight at the office. They're going to sign documents that officially transfer control of the company to Trevor." Benjamin felt as if the world was collapsing around him. "And why are you telling me this?" "Because I worked for you for 2 years before being transferred to Charlie, and because I know you're an honest man. What they're doing is wrong." "Where can we meet?" "There's a diner on the highway that leads to your country house at mile marker 15. I can be there in an hour." After hanging up, Benjamin explained the situation to Eleanor, who immediately opposed the meeting. "It could be a trap," she said. "How do we know she's not working for Charlie?" "We don't. But if the information she has can help us stop Charlie from destroying everything tonight." "What if it's dangerous?" "Lily stays here with you. I'll go alone." "No," Eleanor interrupted. "If you go, I go with you. We're not separating now." "And Lily?" "Lily comes with us. I'm not leaving her here alone." An hour later, the three of them were at the highway diner, a simple stop frequented by truckers and travelers. Patricia arrived promptly, a woman of about 30, visibly nervous but determined. "Mr. Caldwell, thank you for coming," she said, sitting at the back table where they were waiting. "Patricia, I need to know, are you doing this spontaneously or did someone send you?" "No one sent me. In fact, if Charlie knew I was here, he'd fire me on the spot." "Then why are you doing this?" "Because last night, staying late at the office, I overheard a conversation between Charlie and Trevor that made me sick." "What conversation?" They were talking about eliminating the obstacles to finalize the transaction. When I asked what obstacles, Charlie said it was the family you were protecting. Eleanor instinctively pulled Lily closer. Did they mention names? Benjamin asked. Not directly, but they talked about a child who was too smart and a woman who knew too much. And Trevor said he had reliable people who could handle the situation discreetly. My God, Eleanor whispered. There's more, Patricia continued. Charlie has forged documents that prove you authorized all the fraudulent transactions. The signature is perfect. They must have hired a forgery expert. How will I prove they're fake if forensics can't detect it? That's the problem. Charlie doesn't know I know, but I found out where he keeps the originals of the altered documents. Where? In his private safe at his house. I have the combination because he's asked me to retrieve documents from there several times. Benjamin felt a spark of hope. Would you be willing to help us retrieve these documents? Yes, but it has to be today, before the 8 o'clock meeting. After that, he'll probably destroy everything. It's too risky, Eleanor said. It's riskier to let them complete the takeover, Benjamin replied. Patricia, how do we do this? Charlie's house is empty on Wednesday afternoons. His wife goes to the gym, and his daughters have swimming lessons. We would have a 2-hour window. And after? After, with the original documents, you can prove that all the signatures on the fraudulent contracts are fake. Lily, who had listened to the whole conversation in silence, tugged on Benjamin's shirt. Can I say something? Of course, my dear. If we're going to the bad man's house, I can help. I'm small and nobody suspects a child. The suggestion left everyone silent. The idea of involving Lily in something so dangerous was unthinkable, but at the same time, Benjamin knew she was right. No one would suspect a child. Lily, it's too dangerous, Eleanor said. Grandma, I want to help Mr. Caldwell. He took care of us when we needed it. Now it's our turn to take care of him. Benjamin was moved by the girl's words. At that moment, he made a decision that would change the course of the entire battle. We're going to do this, but with great care, and by following a detailed plan. They had 3 hours to devise the plan that could save Benjamin's company and protect their lives. Time was running out, and every minute could be the difference between victory and the complete destruction of everything they had fought for. The neighborhood where Charlie lived was one of the most elegant in Cedar Creek, with large houses hidden by high walls and manicured gardens. At 3 o'clock on that Wednesday afternoon, the streets were practically deserted, with only a few housekeepers returning from the market and gardeners tending to the lush green lawns. Benjamin felt uncomfortable with the whole situation. He had never imagined that, one day, he would be planning to break into his former partner's house, let alone involving a 4-year-old child in something so risky. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked Eleanor for the 10th time as they watched Charlie's house from a distance. We have no choice, she replied, though her voice trembled slightly. If we don't get those documents, he'll manage to take everything from you. Patricia had arrived promptly, driving a discreet car that wouldn't attract attention. She knew the schedules of Charlie's family perfectly and had confirmed that the house would be empty for at least 2 hours. The safe is in his office on the 2nd floor, she explained as they reviewed the plan. The combination is his eldest daughter's date of birth, 1505. And if someone arrives unexpectedly? Asked Eleanor. Lily will be the lookout at the front window, Benjamin said. If she sees any car approaching, she'll warn us immediately. Lily, sitting in the back seat, listened to everything with serious attention. To her, this was almost like a detective game, but she could tell from the adults' tension that it was much more serious than any game. Mr. Caldwell, she said, if I see someone coming, should I make a sound like birds do when there's danger? What do you mean? They make a special sound to warn the other birds. I can invent a special scream to warn you. The simplicity of the suggestion brought a smile to Benjamin's face. Good idea. What will be our signal? Lily thought for a moment. I'll shout, "Kitty, kitty," really loud. That way, if someone hears, they'll just think I'm playing. At 3:30, they put the plan into action. Patricia used her key to open the back gate of the house, while Eleanor stayed in the car, ready for a quick getaway if necessary. Benjamin and Lily entered together through the back door. Charlie's house was even more luxurious than Benjamin's, with expensive furniture and works of art on the walls. Lily was impressed by a marble staircase that curved elegantly to the second floor. "It's very beautiful," she whispered. "Beautiful, but bought with stolen money," Benjamin muttered bitterly. Patricia guided them to Charlie's office, a large room dominated by a solid mahogany desk and shelves full of legal books. The safe was hidden behind a fake painting on the wall. "Lily, you stay here at the window," Benjamin instructed. "You can play, but always keep an eye on the street. If you see any car—" "I'll scream, 'Kitty, kitty,'" she completed, already positioned at the window with a perfect view of the main entrance. Benjamin and Patricia went to the safe. His hands trembled slightly as he dialed the combination, not just from the tension of the moment, but from the outrage of violating the privacy of someone he had considered a friend for 20 years. The safe opened with a soft click, revealing piles of meticulously organized documents. Patricia began to search for the originals they had mentioned, while Benjamin tried to identify the different types of paper by touch. "Found them," Patricia whispered after a few minutes. "Here are the original contracts, all with the real signatures. And here—" She paused, shocked. "Here are the forged versions he plans to use against you." "Is there anything else?" Benjamin asked. Patricia continued searching and found a folder that made her turn pale. "Benjamin, there's something here you need to see." "What is it?" "Documents about the accident that caused your blindness." Benjamin's blood ran cold. "What documents?" "Maintenance reports from the company that show Charlie knew the equipment was faulty, but he authorized its operation anyway." The revelation hit Benjamin like a bomb. "Are you saying my accident was caused by Charlie's negligence?" "Not just negligence. Here's a document signed by him authorizing the use of equipment that had failed the safety inspection." Benjamin leaned against the wall, feeling as if his entire reality was being rewritten. His accident hadn't been a tragic coincidence. It had been the result of his own partner's greed and irresponsibility. "Why would he keep evidence that incriminates him?" he asked, still processing the discovery. "Probably to use as collateral in case someone tried to blackmail him, or maybe to have control over you, knowing you could be held criminally responsible." At that moment, Lily's sharp voice echoed through the house. "Kitty! Kitty!" Everyone's blood ran cold. Quickly, Patricia put the documents back in the safe, keeping only the originals and the evidence of the accident. Benjamin closed the safe, and they ran to the window where Lily was. "What did you see?" Benjamin asked, trying to control the panic in his voice. "A black car pulled up in front of the house. 2 men are getting out." Patricia looked out the window and turned pale. "They're not from Charlie's family. I've never seen these men before." "They could be the private security guards who were watching us," Benjamin said. The sound of the front door being opened echoed through the house. Male voices conversed in low tones, but they were getting closer. "We need to leave now," Patricia whispered. They went down the stairs silently, but when they reached the ground floor, they realized that the men were already inside the house, blocking the back exit. "Mr. Caldwell," said a deep voice from the living room, "we know you're here. We won't hurt you if you come out peacefully." Benjamin, Patricia, and Lily hid behind the staircase, trying to think of a way out. "How did they know we were here?" Patricia whispered. Someone betrayed us, Benjamin replied bitterly. Lily, observing the situation with childish insight, noticed something the adults had missed. There was a small door under the staircase that seemed to lead to the basement. Psst, she called softly, pointing to the door. Benjamin felt for the door and found it unlocked. With no other options, the three of them hid in the dark, stuffy basement. From above, they could hear the men systematically searching the house for them. "They're not here anymore," one of the men said after a few minutes. "They must have escaped before we arrived." "Charlie's not going to be happy," replied the other. "He wanted us to bring at least the child." The words made Eleanor tremble with anger and fear. In the dark basement, she hugged Lily tightly, silently promising that she wouldn't let anything happen to the girl. After what seemed like an eternity, the men finally left the house. But Benjamin knew it was risky to leave immediately. "Let's wait a few more minutes," he whispered. It was during this tense wait that Lily made a discovery that would change everything once again. "Mr. Caldwell," she whispered, "there's a box down here with papers that glow in the dark." Glowing papers? Patricia used her phone's flashlight to illuminate what Lily had found. It was a box full of documents with security holograms, clearly important official documents. "These are fake birth certificates," Patricia said, examining the papers, "and passports. Charlie has a whole counterfeit document operation running here." "This is much bigger than we imagined," Benjamin murmured. Among the documents, Lily found something that made her very quiet. It was a birth certificate with the name Lily Vance, but with completely different data from the real one. "Grandma," she whispered to Eleanor, "why is my name here?" Eleanor took the document and almost fainted. According to that fake certificate, Lily was the daughter of Charles Mercer. "My God," she whispered. "They were planning to kidnap Lily and use fake documents to prove she is Charlie's daughter." The magnitude of Charlie's plan was finally revealed. It wasn't just about destroying Benjamin's company. It was about kidnapping Lily and using her as leverage, knowing that Benjamin would do anything to protect her. "We need to get out of here now and go straight to the police," Benjamin said. They crept up from the basement, checked that the house was truly empty, and left through the back. Eleanor was waiting for them in the car, paler than usual after her first dialysis session. "How did it go?" she asked anxiously. "We got the documents," Benjamin replied, "but we discovered something much worse." As they drove back to the country house, Benjamin explained to Eleanor everything they had discovered. The evidence of the accident, the forged documents, and most importantly, the plan to kidnap Lily. "We're not going to be able to solve this on our own," Eleanor said. "This is much bigger than corporate fraud." "I know. But now we have enough evidence to destroy Charlie before he can destroy us." Lily, exhausted from the day's tension, fell asleep in the back seat, hugging the teddy bear she always carried. She didn't know that she had just participated in the operation that would save not only Benjamin's company, but probably her own life. But the war was far from over. Charlie would find out in a few hours that his safe had been breached, and his reaction would be more violent and desperate than anything they had faced so far. The 8 o'clock meeting would be the decisive moment, and this time, Benjamin would be prepared for the final confrontation with the man who had destroyed his life and planned to destroy his family. Back at the country house, Benjamin couldn't contain the anger that burned in his chest. Discovering that Charlie had been responsible for the accident that blinded him changed everything. It was no longer just about corporate fraud. It was about 20 years of lies, manipulation, and systematic betrayal. "Eleanor, I need you and Lily to stay here tonight," he said, as he organized the documents they had recovered. "I'm going to the 8 o'clock meeting." "Absolutely not," she replied firmly. "I'm not letting you face this alone. It's too dangerous. If Charlie found out we were in his house, he already knows we've discovered his secrets. Running or hiding won't solve anything. Lily, who had woken up from her nap, watched the discussion with attention. Even at only 4 years old, she sensed that this night would be decisive for the future of her small family. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, pulling on his shirt, "can I ask something?" "Of course, my dear." "Why does Mr. Mercer want to hurt us so much? Did we do something bad to him?" The simple, direct question deeply touched Benjamin. How could he explain to a child that some people are driven by greed and cruelty? "No, Lily. You didn't do anything wrong. Some people do bad things because they want things that aren't theirs. Like when a kid wants another kid's toy and tries to take it by force. Exactly, like that." At that moment, the house phone rang. It was Mr. Peterson, and his voice was filled with urgency. "Benjamin, where are you?" "At the country house. Why?" "Charlie found out someone broke into his house. He's furious, cancelled the 8 o'clock meeting, and said he's going to handle the situation personally." Benjamin's blood ran cold. What does that mean? It means he's no longer going to try to solve this in court. Ms. Lopez called me a little while ago. She intercepted a conversation between Charlie and Trevor. They're resorting to extreme measures. "What kind of measures?" I know exactly, but she heard Charlie say that the problem would be solved by tomorrow morning, one way or another. Benjamin hung up the phone with trembling hands. Eleanor, who had overheard part of the conversation, immediately started packing. "We need to get out of here now," she said. "Where to? If they have the resources they seem to have, there's no place we can hide indefinitely." It was then that Lily, with the simple logic of children, made a suggestion that surprised everyone. "Why don't we go talk to the police? When someone does something bad, Grandma always says, 'You have to tell the police.' Because, my little flower, sometimes bad people are very smart and can confuse even the police," Eleanor explained. "But we have the papers that prove he's bad, don't we?" Benjamin paused for a moment, considering Lily's words. She was right. They had enough evidence to destroy Charlie legally and publicly. Maybe it was time to stop running and go on the attack. "Patricia," he said, calling Charlie's secretary, "do you still have access to the company's system?" "Yes, for now. Charlie hasn't changed my passwords yet. I need you to do something for me. Can you send all the documents we found today to Mr. Peterson, to Ms. Lopez, and also to the local newspapers? Are you sure? Once this goes public, there's no turning back." "That's exactly what I want. I want the whole city to know what kind of man Charles Mercer is." While Patricia prepared to send the documents, Benjamin made another courageous decision. "Eleanor, we're going back home." "Have you gone crazy? That's exactly where they'll expect to find us." "That's precisely why. They're looking for us everywhere except where we really should be. Besides, our house has a security system, cameras, and it's in the middle of the city. Anything that happens will be seen by neighbors. And what if they try something anyway? Then at least we'll be on familiar territory, with all the evidence organized and ready to be handed over to the authorities." The journey back to Cedar Creek was tense. Lily slept in the back seat, exhausted from the day's events, while Eleanor drove with her eyes constantly checking the rearview mirror, looking for suspicious cars. "Benjamin," she said during the drive, "I need to tell you something I've been thinking about since we found out. About the accident." "What?" "At the time of the accident, I remember you being very strange. In the last few months I worked at the company. You seemed worried, suspicious of something." "That's true. There were some irregularities in the financial reports that I couldn't explain." "Do you think Charlie caused the accident on purpose? To shut you up?" The question echoed in the silence of the car. Benjamin had asked himself the same thing since they discovered the documents. It's possible. If I was starting to suspect his fraud, he might have decided it was better to neutralize me in a way that looked like an accident. That means he's even more dangerous than we imagined. They arrived at the mansion as it was getting dark. The house was exactly as they had left it, but Benjamin immediately noticed something was different. "Eleanor, the living room lights are on. We didn't leave them on. Is someone inside the house?" Before they could decide what to do, the front door opened and a familiar figure appeared in the entrance. "Benjamin, thank God you're back." It was Martha, the housekeeper, but her expression was desperate. "Martha, what are you doing here?" "I told you to stay home today." "I know, sir, but something terrible happened. Mr. Mercer was here this afternoon with 2 men. They searched the whole house." "Did they take anything?" "I'm not sure, but they left a message for you." Martha handed a sealed envelope to Benjamin. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed message. "Benjamin, you have until midnight to return the documents you stole from my safe. If you don't, the child and the woman will pay for your choices. Do not underestimate my determination." The explicit threat made Eleanor's blood run cold. Instinctively, she pulled Lily closer. "He's completely lost his mind," Benjamin murmured. "What are we going to do?" asked Eleanor. "We're going to end this once and for all." Benjamin picked up the phone and called Mr. Peterson. "Frank, I need you to come to my house now and bring Ms. Lopez. Also, call the police and the newspapers. It's time to make everything public." "Are you sure?" "I am. Charlie just threatened me in writing. That, along with all the evidence we have, is enough to destroy him. I'll be there in 30 minutes." While they waited for the lawyers and police to arrive, Benjamin methodically organized all the documents: the forged contracts, the evidence of the accident, the fake documents found in Charlie's basement, and now the threatening letter. "Mr. Caldwell," said Lily, who had woken up and was watching all the activity, "when all this is over, are we still going to be a family?" The question deeply touched Benjamin. In the midst of all the chaos, he had forgotten what really mattered. "Of course we are, Lily. It doesn't matter what happens with the company or with Charlie. You are my family now." "Even if you become poor?" Benjamin smiled, hugging the girl. "Even if I become poor. In fact, you taught me that I was already poor before. Poor in love, in family, in purpose. Now I'm the richest man in the world." At 9:30 that night, the house was full of people. Mr. Peterson, Ms. Lopez, 2 police detectives, a local newspaper reporter, and Patricia, who had brought even more evidence from the company. "Mr. Caldwell," said the lead detective, "based on what we're seeing here, we're going to issue arrest warrants for Charles Mercer and Trevor Ramirez tonight." "And our safety?" "We'll maintain surveillance on your house until they are arrested." At 11:15 that night, 15 minutes before Charlie's deadline, Benjamin's phone rang. It was him. "Benjamin, I see you've decided to make things difficult," Charlie said, his voice as cold as ice. "Charlie, it's over. The police already have arrest warrants for you. Surrender peacefully." "Do you really think I'm going to let a blind man ruin everything I've worked for 20 years? "A blind man that you yourself created," Benjamin replied. "Yes, I know about the accident. I know it was you who authorized the use of the faulty equipment." The silence on the other end of the line lasted for long seconds. "You can't prove anything." "Yes, I can. I have the original documents from your own safe." "Then I guess we'll have to settle this face to face, like old times." "Where are you, Charlie?" "Closer than you think." The call was disconnected, and at the same instant, the lights in the house went out. Outside, the sound of cars approaching quickly put everyone on alert. The final battle was about to begin, and this time, there would be no place to run or hide. Benjamin held Lily's hand. tightly, silently promising that he wouldn't let anything happen to her. But he knew that the next few hours would be the most dangerous of their lives. In the absolute darkness of the house, the sound of the approaching cars created an almost unbearable tension. Benjamin held Lily's hand tightly as the detectives positioned themselves strategically by the windows, trying to identify how many vehicles were outside. "There are 3 cars," whispered Detective Moreira, peeking through the living room curtain. "At least 6 men." "Charlie brought a small army," murmured Mr. Peterson. "Mr. Caldwell," Lily said softly, "I know a place for us to hide." "Where, my dear?" "There's a secret little room in the basement of this house, just like the one in the bad man's house. I found it when I was playing hide and seek with Martha." Eleanor looked at her granddaughter with admiration. Once again, Lily's childish curiosity was proving crucial to everyone's safety. "Detective Moreira," Benjamin said, "you can stay here and deal with Charlie, but I want my family protected." "I understand, but we can't guarantee that—" The sound of breaking glass on the upper floor interrupted the conversation. Someone had broken a window on the 2nd floor. "They're in the house," whispered Ms. Lopez. "Let's go to the basement," Benjamin decided. "Lily, show us the way." The girl, with the typical agility of children, led the group through the dark corridor to the kitchen, where a discreet door led to the basement. Down there, she showed them a small passage behind the boiler that led to a compartment that had probably been used as a hiding place during some old renovation of the house. "Eleanor, you and Lily stay here," Benjamin instructed. "Don't come out for any reason." "And you, where are you going?" "I'm going to settle this with Charlie. It's time to face him." "Benjamin, don't be crazy. You can't face 6 men alone." "I won't be alone. The detectives are here." From upstairs, voices began to echo through the house. It was possible to hear Charlie giving orders to his men to search every room. "Find the child first," he was saying. "She's our leverage." "Grandma," whispered Lily, "does he want to get me?" "We won't let that happen," promised Eleanor, hugging her granddaughter tightly. Benjamin came up from the basement, determined to confront his former partner. On the ground floor, he found Detective Moreira and his team preparing for the confrontation. "Charlie!" Benjamin shouted on purpose to get attention. "I'm here! You don't need to look for the others!" The noise upstairs stopped immediately. Heavy footsteps began to descend the staircase. "Benjamin," said Charlie's voice, echoing through the dark corridor, "you were always too stubborn for your own good. And you were always too greedy for anyone's good." Charlie appeared in the main living room, accompanied by 2 armed men. Even in the dark, Benjamin could feel their menacing presence. "Where are the documents?" Charlie asked directly. "With the police, with the newspapers, with my lawyers." "It's too late, Charlie." "Not yet. If you sign the transfer of the company to Trevor tonight, I can make this evidence disappear." "Do you really think I'm going to sign anything after finding out it was you who caused my accident?" Charlie laughed bitterly. "You found that out, did you? Took you long enough for a supposedly smart man." "Why, Charlie? We were friends for over 20 years. "Friends?" Charlie's voice was filled with resentment. "You were always the owner, the boss. I was just the junior partner, the one who did the dirty work while you got all the credit. You had 40% of the company. You were making millions, and you made more, always more. And you always treated me like an employee, never as an equal." Benjamin realized he was talking to a man consumed by decades of envy and resentment. All the affection and respect he had felt for Charlie turned into a deep sadness. "So, you decided to blind me to take everything?" "I decided to solve the problem the only way I knew how. I didn't expect you to survive, to be honest." The confession shocked even the armed men accompanying Charlie. One of them muttered something about not having signed up for this. It was at that moment that Detective Moreira stepped out from behind the living room curtain, his gun drawn. "Charles Mercer, you are under arrest for attempted murder, corporate fraud, and making threats." "Not so fast," Charlie replied, signaling to his men. But what he didn't expect was that his own security guards, shocked by the confession of attempted murder, would lower their weapons. "Mr. Mercer," one of them said, "we didn't sign up to be part of an attempted murder. This is far beyond what we agreed to do." "You work for me!" Charlie shouted, completely losing control. "We worked for you," the man corrected. "But we're not murderers." With his own men turning against him, Charlie found himself alone and surrounded by police. His expression changed from anger to the desperation of a cornered animal. "Benjamin," he said, his voice now almost pleading, "we can work this out. I can give everything back, compensate you." "Too late, Charlie. You tried to murder me and threatened my family. There's no coming back." It was then that something unexpected happened. A small, sweet voice echoed through the dark room. "Mr. Mercer, why did you want to hurt Mr. Caldwell?" It was Lily, who had come up from the basement against Eleanor's orders, moved by the typical curiosity of children. "Lily, go back to the basement!" Benjamin shouted, terrified at the possibility of Charlie trying something desperate. But Charlie, upon seeing the girl, seemed to lose all the fight that was left in him. Maybe it was her innocence, or the memory of his own daughters, but something in his expression changed completely. "Because I'm a very bad man, little one," he said, his voice broken. "And bad men do terrible things for money." "But you can stop being bad," Lily said with the simple wisdom of children. "My grandma always says that everyone can change if they want to." The girl's words echoed in the tense silence of the room. Charlie looked at her, then at Benjamin, and finally at the police officers surrounding him. "You're right," he said, raising his hands in surrender. "I'm guilty of everything. I caused Benjamin's accident on purpose. I stole from the company for years, and today I came here with the intention of hurting innocent and people." Detective Moreira approached and placed the handcuffs on Charlie. "Anything you say can and will be used against you." "I know, and I want it to be. I can't live with this anymore." Eleanor finally came up from the basement, relieved to see that the situation was under control. She ran to Lily and picked her up. "My child, you scared me to death." "I'm sorry, Grandma, but I wanted to talk to Mr. Mercer. He seemed very sad." Benjamin approached Charlie before he was taken away by the police. "Charlie, there's one question I need to ask." "What?" "Why keep evidence that incriminated you in your own safe?" Charlie smiled bitterly. "Because a part of me always knew this day would come. And maybe a part of me wanted it to come." When Charlie was finally taken away, the house fell into absolute silence. Benjamin sat heavily on the sofa, physically and emotionally exhausted. "Is it over?" asked Eleanor. "It's over," confirmed Detective Moreira. "Trevor Ramirez has also been arrested at his home. The entire network has been dismantled." Lily approached Benjamin and climbed into his lap. "Mr. Caldwell, now that the bad man is gone, can we be happy?" "We can, my little warrior. We can be the happiest family in the world." Mr. Peterson, who had watched everything in silence, finally spoke. "Benjamin, with the evidence we've gathered and Charlie's confession, you will not only regain full control of the company, but you will likely receive substantial compensation for the damages suffered." "The company can wait," Benjamin said, hugging Lily tighter. "Now I want to focus on what really matters." "On what?" asked the girl. "On being the best father and grandfather I can be. On taking care of Grandma Eleanor. On ensuring you have the happiest childhood possible." "And the birds?" asked Lily. "Can I keep drawing birds?" "You can draw as many birds as you want, and now they can be free and happy birds just like us." In the early morning, when they were finally alone, Eleanor, Benjamin, and Lily sat in the mansion's garden, watching the stars that shone over Cedar Creek. "Eleanor," Benjamin said, "there's something I need to tell you." "What?" "I want to officially adopt Lily. I want her to have my name, my legal protection, everything. Benjamin, and I want to marry you." The proposal caught Eleanor completely off guard. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You saved me, Eleanor. You gave me a family, a purpose, a reason to live." Lily, who pretended to be asleep but was listening to everything, whispered softly, "Does that mean we're going to be a real family forever?" "Forever," Benjamin promised. And for the first time in years, he knew he was making a promise he could keep. 3 months had passed since Charlie's arrest, and life in Benjamin's mansion had found a new, harmonious rhythm. Eleanor was recovering well from her dialysis treatment, which was now done at a private clinic near the house, while Lily flourished in an environment of safety and love she had never known. That Saturday morning, Benjamin woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the garden. Lily was playing with Martha, while Eleanor tended to the flowers she had planted in the porch planters. It was a scene of domestic peace that warmed his heart in a way he hadn't experienced in years. "Good morning, family," he said as he went out to the garden, guided by the aroma of fresh coffee that Eleanor always prepared. "Good morning, Daddy Ben," Lily replied, running to hug him. The term Daddy still moved Benjamin deeply. The adoption had been finalized the previous week in a simple but emotional ceremony at the Cedar Creek courthouse. Lily was now officially named Lily Vance Caldwell. "Eleanor," he said, sitting next to her on the garden bench, "Mr. Peterson called last night. He wants to schedule a meeting about the compensation." So much has changed in so little time, she reflected, watching Lily play carefree. It changed because a brave little girl decided to save a stranger in the forest, Benjamin said, smiling in Lily's direction. It was then that something unexpected happened. Martha came running from the house with the phone in her hand, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. "Mr. Caldwell, there's a call for Mrs. Vance. It's a woman who says she's Sarah." The name hit Eleanor like a lightning bolt. Sarah, her daughter who had disappeared more than 2 years ago, leaving Lily in her care without an explanation. "Sarah," she whispered, her hands trembling as she took the phone. Lily stopped playing immediately, her ears perked up at the sound of the mother's name she barely remembered. "Mom," said the voice on the other end of the line, laden with tears and regret. "Sarah, my daughter? Where have you been?" asked Eleanor, her voice choked with emotion. "I can explain everything. I'm in Charlotte working as a nursing assistant. I'm clean, Mom. I've been clean for 1.5 years. Clean? From drugs. That's why I ran away. I was addicted and afraid I would hurt Lily. I couldn't let her see me in that state." Eleanor sat down heavily, the weight of 2 years of uncertainty and suffering finally finding an explanation. "Why didn't you get in touch sooner?" "Because I was ashamed, and because I wanted to be sure I was really healed before coming back into my daughter's life." Lily timidly approached Eleanor, realizing that something important was happening. "Is it my mom?" she whispered. Eleanor nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah," she said into the phone, "there's something you need to know. A lot has changed in Lily's life." "Is she okay? Is she sick?" "She's great. Better than ever. But we have a new family now." Eleanor quickly explained the whole story, the encounter with Benjamin, the discovery of her kidney disease, the move to the mansion, the battle against Charlie, and finally, the official adoption. The silence on the other end of the line lasted for long minutes. "Mom," Sarah said finally, "are you telling me my daughter was adopted?" "Legally, yes, but you are still her biological mother. No one can take that away from you." "I want to see her. I need to see her." Benjamin, who had listened to the whole conversation, approached Eleanor and whispered, "Tell her she can come whenever she wants." "Sarah," Eleanor said, "you can come visit us whenever you want. Benjamin, Lily's adoptive father, said you are always welcome. Where do you live?" Eleanor gave the mansion's address, and Sarah promised she would travel to Cedar Creek the following weekend. After hanging up the phone, Eleanor turned to Lily, who had listened to everything with an attention too serious for a 4-year-old. "Is my mum coming to get me?" she asked, a mixture of curiosity and fear in her voice. "We don't know yet, my little flower, but she wants to see you. I want to see her too, but I don't want to leave you." Benjamin knelt to Lily's level and held her little hands. "Lily, no matter what happens, you will always be my daughter. The adoption paper proves that. No one can change that. Even if my mom wants me to live with her? Even then. But maybe we can find a way for all of us to stay together." The week that followed was one of anxiety and preparation. Eleanor cleaned the house obsessively. Benjamin organized the adoption documents to show that everything had been done legally, and Lily fluctuated between excitement and nervousness. "Grandma," she asked one morning, "how will I know if I like my mom?" "You'll know, my dear. Our hearts always recognize those who truly love us." "What if she doesn't like me? I've changed a lot since she left." "You've changed for the better," Eleanor said. "You're a smart, brave, and kind girl. Any mother would be proud of a daughter like you." On Friday afternoon, the eve of Sarah's arrival, something unexpected happened again. Mr. Peterson showed up at the house with important news about Charlie's trial. "Benjamin," he said, sitting in the living room, "Charlie has decided to make a deal with the prosecution. He will confess to all crimes in exchange for a reduced sentence." "How long will he be in prison?" 8 years, probably. But there's something more important. He has agreed to return all the embezzled funds from the company with interest and adjustments. How much does that represent? Approximately $15 million. You're going to become one of the wealthiest businessmen in the region. Benjamin was silent, processing the information. "Mr. Peterson, I want you to do something for me." "What?" "I want to use part of that money to build a free rehabilitation clinic for drug addicts, in honor of all the families that have been destroyed by drugs." "Including Sarah's family?" "Including them. If she has truly recovered and wants to rebuild her life, we will help her do it in the best way possible." Eleanor, who had overheard the conversation, looked at Benjamin with renewed admiration. Even after everything they had been through, he was still thinking about helping others. "Benjamin," she said, "I'm sure Sarah will be impressed with the generous man you are. And I'm sure that if she has really changed, we will find a way to be an even bigger family." Lily, who was playing on the floor with her dolls, looked up. "Daddy Ben, if my mum stays here with us, can she sleep in the pink room too? If she wants, we can set up a room just for her. And can she help Grandma take care of the flowers? She can help with whatever she wants. And can she teach me things that only mums know how to teach?" The question deeply touched all the adults present. Eleanor knelt beside her granddaughter. "What things, my little flower?" "I don't know yet. But Patricia said that mums know special things that no one else knows." Patricia, who had become almost part of the family after helping them against Charlie, visited frequently and had developed a special affection for Lily. "Patricia is right," Eleanor said. "Mums know very special things." "Then maybe it's a good thing to have my mom back," Lily concluded with the simple logic of children. That night, while Lily slept, Benjamin and Eleanor talked at length about how to handle Sarah's arrival. "Are you scared?" he asked. "I am," she admitted. Afraid that Lily will choose her biological mother and abandon us. That won't happen. Lily has enough love in her. Heart for all of us. And what if Sarah wants to take her away? Then we will fight in court. Lily is happy, stable in school. Any judge will take that into account. And what if we don't have to fight? What if Sarah wants to stay? Benjamin smiled. Then our family will become even more complete. On Saturday morning, as they awaited Sarah's arrival, Lily dressed with special care. She chose her prettiest dress, asked Eleanor to put her hair in 2 braids, and held Benjamin's hand tightly as they waited in the living room. I'm nervous, she confessed. We all are, Benjamin said, but sometimes the things that make us nervous are the ones that bring the most joy to our lives. Like when you brought me to live here? Exactly like that. When the doorbell finally rang, everyone's heart raced. Martha went to open the door, and a young woman of about 25 entered the room. She was thin but healthy, with brown hair and eyes that were identical to Lily's. My baby, Sarah whispered upon seeing her daughter. Lily hid behind Benjamin for a moment, studying this woman who was her mother, but also a stranger. Hi, she said shyly. Hi, my princess. You've grown so much. You're so beautiful. Gradually, the initial tension began to dissipate. Sarah proved to be humble, repentant, and genuinely interested in getting to know the life her daughter had built. Mr. Caldwell, she said after talking with Lily for a few hours, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for my daughter. You don't need to thank me. Lily saved us as much as we saved her. I want to be a part of her life again, but I don't want to destroy the family you've built. Eleanor approached her daughter and hugged her for the first time in 2 years. Then don't destroy it, she said. Join us. And at that moment, looking at Lily running happily through the garden, followed by her biological mother, her grandmother, and her adoptive father, Benjamin knew that sometimes happy endings come in ways we can never imagine. 6 months after Sarah's return, the family had found a perfect balance. The young mother had moved into the mansion, occupying the room Benjamin had specially prepared for her, and worked as a nursing assistant at the new rehabilitation clinic he had built in the city. Lily, now 5, blossomed with the love of 3 adults who were completely dedicated to her well-being. Eleanor had recovered remarkably well from her kidney treatment. Benjamin had regained full control of his company, and Sarah proved every day that her recovery was genuine and permanent. That Sunday morning, as they prepared for a picnic on the outskirts of town, Eleanor made an announcement that surprised everyone. I have something important to tell you, she said, gathering the family in the living room. What is it, Grandma? Asked Lily, sitting on Benjamin's lap. Remember when you used to ask why I always knew Benjamin would become a special man? I remember, said Sarah. You always said he was different from the other rich kids. Well, there's a reason for that. A reason I've kept secret for over 40 years. Benjamin frowned, intrigued. What reason, Eleanor? Benjamin, she said, taking a deep breath. Your mother, Mrs. Isabella, couldn't have children. I know that. She told me when I was a teenager that they tried for years before I was born. She didn't try to have children for years, my son. She could never have children. The silence that followed was absolute. Sarah held her mother's hand, realizing that something very important was being revealed. Eleanor, Benjamin said slowly, what are you trying to tell me? I'm trying to say that you are not the biological son of Isabella and Francisco Caldwell. Benjamin's world seemed to stop. What do you mean? You were born to a 16-year-old housekeeper who worked for your parents, a girl who got pregnant and couldn't afford to raise a child. Tears began to stream down Eleanor's face as she continued. Your parents, who desperately wanted an heir, made a deal with the girl. They would raise the child as their own son, give him an education, opportunities, a life she could never offer. And the biological mother, Benjamin asked, his voice barely a whisper. The biological mother was fired as soon as you were born, with a sum of money and the promise that she would never reveal the truth. Lily, even without fully understanding what was happening, sensed that something very serious was being discussed. Eleanor, Benjamin said, his mind struggling to process the information. Who was this girl? Eleanor closed her eyes, gathering the courage to reveal the secret she had carried for decades. It was me, Benjamin. I am your biological mother. The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah covered her mouth with her hands, shocked. Lily looked confused from one adult to another, trying to understand why everyone seemed so surprised. You are my mother, Benjamin whispered. I am. And for all those years, while I took care of you as a nanny, it was the most painful and most wonderful thing in the world. I could be near my son, watch him grow, but I could never tell the truth. Why are you telling me now? Because you deserve to know, and because I'm getting old and I don't want to take this secret with me when I leave this world. Benjamin stood up abruptly, walking to the window, trying to organize his thoughts. Lily got off his lap and approached Eleanor. Grandma, does that mean you're Daddy Ben's mom? It does, my little flower. So you're my real great-grandmother. I am. Lily smiled as if it all made perfect sense to her. That's great. Now our family is even more of a family. The simplicity of Lily's reaction broke the tension of the moment. Sarah began to laugh and cry at the same time. Mom, she said, does that mean Benjamin is my brother? Half-brother, Eleanor corrected. You have the same mother, but different fathers. Benjamin turned from the window, tears streaming down his face. Eleanor, Mom, why would my adoptive parents fire you after I grew up? Why did they treat you so badly? Because I made a mistake, she admitted. When you turned 18, I couldn't control myself anymore. I told you the truth. I don't remember that, because your parents managed to convince you that I was lying, that I was a resentful employee trying to take advantage of the family. They fired me the same week and sent you to study in another state. And you never tried to get in touch again? I tried once when you came back to Cedar Creek and opened the company, but you were married, happy, building your own family. I thought it would be selfish of me to destroy your life with the truth. Benjamin walked slowly to Eleanor and knelt in front of her. Mom, he said, testing the word, you would never be selfish in my life. You are the most generous person I know. Benjamin, now I understand why I always felt so connected to you. Why, even as a child, I felt you were special. And now I understand why fate brought us together again, Eleanor said, touching the face of the son she had lost and found again in such an unexpected way. Sarah approached the two of them. Does this mean Lily has an uncle who is also her adoptive father? It means this family is more complicated and more beautiful than any soap opera, Benjamin said, laughing through his tears. Daddy Ben, Lily said, can I keep calling you Daddy even though I know you're my uncle? You can call me whatever you want, my dear. I will always be your father in my heart. And can Grandma Eleanor keep being Grandma even though she's your mom? Of course she can. Good, Lily said, satisfied, because I like things the way they are. At that moment, Benjamin understood something profound about the nature of family and love. It didn't matter about biological ties or social conventions. What mattered was genuine love, mutual care, the daily choice to be present in each other's lives. Eleanor, Mom, he said, there's one question I need to ask, which is, who is my biological father? Eleanor hesitated for a moment. He was a young man who worked on your adoptive parents' farm. He never knew I was pregnant. He died in an accident when you were 2. What was he like? He was kind, hardworking, honest. He had a smile that could light up any room. You inherited many of his characteristics, including the blindness. The blindness came from the accident, not from genetics. But your kindness, your generosity, your capacity to love, that came from him. Benjamin absorbed all the information in silence. After a lifetime of wondering why he felt different from the Caldwell family, he finally had all the answers. "You know something?" he said finally. "What?" "I wouldn't change a thing. Even knowing everything, I wouldn't change a single decision I've made, because all the choices brought me here, to you all." "To our crazy family," Sarah added, smiling. "Our perfect family," Lily corrected. 2 years later, the family had expanded even more. Sarah had married Dr. Richard, the nephrologist who took care of Eleanor, and they were expecting their first child. Benjamin and Eleanor had formalized their marriage in a simple but emotional ceremony, with Lily as the maid of honor. The rehabilitation clinic had become a national reference, helping hundreds of families reunite after the ravages of drugs. And Lily, now 7, was studying at a private school where she was known for her intelligence and kindness. On a spring morning, as the whole family gathered for breakfast in the mansion's garden, Lily made an observation that perfectly summarized their journey. "You know what I've learned," she said, watching the birds that visited the flowers Eleanor had planted. "What, my dear?" asked Benjamin. "I've learned that sometimes we think we're lost, but we're actually exactly where we need to be." "What do you mean?" "Well, you thought you had lost everything when you went blind. But if you hadn't gone blind, you never would have found me in the forest. And if I hadn't found you, we never would have found out that Grandma Eleanor is your mom. And if we hadn't found that out, maybe my mom would never have come back." Lily's simple but profound logic made everyone laugh and get emotional at the same time. "And what else have you learned?" asked Eleanor. "I've learned that family isn't just who you're born with. Family is who chooses to stay together." Benjamin stood up and hugged his entire family. His mother, his wife, his daughter, niece, stepdaughter, and soon his daughter-in-law and grandchild. "Lily," he said, "you are the wisest person I know." "It's because I had the best teachers," she replied, hugging everyone back. "And in that flowered garden, under the golden sun of North Carolina, a family that had found each other through pain, stayed united through courage, and was strengthened through love, knew they had found what we all search for our entire lives, a place to belong, people who love us unconditionally, and the certainty that no matter what the future held, they would face it all together." The birds sang in the trees, the flowers perfumed the air, and Lily Vance Caldwell, the girl who had saved a man lost in the forest, smiled knowing she had helped create the most beautiful and unlikely family any story could ever have. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story, giving it a score from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.